idea is amazing and it sounds so good when you pick up that low note. Or turn around the pivot idea and play it upside down from high to low and it still sounds amazing. But there is this. What Chris Potter does here, the modern bebop pivot. But seriously, I do not know what to call it. Is it enclosures? Is it scaling, circling, scale pivots? You've probably heard phrases like this before, so please help me out here. What do you call this kind of scale pivot? Put it in the comments below. Let's get into our playing and see how we can use this scale approach. Chris Potter started out so beautifully in the jazz standard All the Things You Are. And since All the Things You Are is one of my all-time jazz standard favorites, let's use some examples on this tune. This example is written over the two first bar of All the Things You Are. And the beautiful thing about this scale line is the two scales that are approaching each other. And both scale lines are moving towards that E flat at the end of the line. And at the same time you get a little jump in there, like the pivot jump. So what I really want to achieve is connecting the target notes, but not normally just going straight to the target note. But I want to connect the target notes with scales from below and from above. In this way you get this broken line sound where you're hitting the target notes, but you get some big jumps because of the moving scales towards the target notes. Listening to this is really surprising. When I hit these target notes, I plotted these down first. Now I want to hit them with the scale lines. What you see here is that I can approach the target notes from any direction using the scale. In this F7 line you see that I use exactly the same principles, but I get different target notes. And this is of course the magic about this. You can pick any target note you want and move the scales towards it. Exactly this line reminds me of the normal pivot line you would do like this, from the F jump down to the A, play that arpeggio up. What I mentioned before is that you can hit any target note you want when you're using this system. You also see that I can change the direction of any approach note line. When I'm using the scales to approach the target notes like this, I think flexibility is the most important thing. You need to know where your target notes are. So getting into this problem, the most challenging thing is hearing the target note up front. So you need to hear the target note and then you need to plan your lines accordingly. Some going up, some going down, but both towards the target note. The thing is, you need to plan out the rhythm ahead, that you're hitting the target note exactly on the spot where you hear it. This means you need to train listening towards the target note. How do I hit that target note? And hearing it clearly in front of the line. What I often do is making exercise out of a little lick I find that I think is really interesting. This exercise trains 3 approach notes towards the target note from above and below. And of course, when you have trained this, you should put it immediately into your music. When I'm training the exercise, I'm really focusing on hearing the target note. That is much easier to put it into licks afterwards. Earlier I talked about the rhythm of the line. In this example you see that I'm using 3 approach notes from above and 4 from below. And of course this changes the rhythm of the line and thereby the sound of the line because you move the target note. I really believe in training many different patterns, that you train the sound that you want to add into your music. You need to get a flexible hearing, that you can hear the different rhythms, but you also need to get flexible fingers, getting used to playing this rhythm. Make your own exercises. And of course you do not need to do this all by yourself. I would really love to help you. Find all the exercises and all the phrases I've made in this lesson in the lesson manual on Patreon. But on Patreon they're in a much more extended version. The lesson manual PDF download link is in the description. In this line I try something new. You see that the target note F is added to both approach lines from below and from above. The only thing this means is that there are no rules for how to apply this target note approach technique. You do not always need to play directly to your target note. You can make all the extra enclosures you want. You can make all the extra scale approach notes you want. When I make these lines, it seems like I'm looking for the best place to go towards the target note, and I want to end the approach line as close to the target note as possible. In an exercise like this, you see how the ends potentially meet on the same note in the middle. So taking the exercise where you're hitting the target note actually in the approach lines, you can use it like this in your licks. Another step in the direction of this approach line technique is on the F7. You see there are one top note and there are 5 approach notes into the E flat. So do it however you want. So here I'm taking 1 approach note above, 5 below, 2 above, 4 below, 3 above, 3 below, 5 above, 1 below. If you turn around your exercises like this, you get very flexible in moving around in this system. And this way you can do whatever you want, playing more or less approach notes from below or from above. I think there are so many things to like about this approach. One of the things are the big jumps that makes the broken lines of this system. When you start training this approach note pivot, you get these big jumps into your hearing, and they actually start occurring in your playing too. And of course, when you're getting into these big jumps, adding these scale towards the target note, you're still able to hit your target notes. But you also start to develop a sense for moving your lines in any direction towards any target note. Your playing becomes so much more loose and flexible. And this leads to that you can even move the lines 1 octave up or 1 octave down randomly, which makes even more broken lines and gives you a more open sound. The result of learning this pivot scale approach system, please give me a name here in the comments, help me, thank you, is that you're getting an extremely flexible playing, and you get to play lines in any direction towards your target notes. In the lesson manual PDF on Patreon, I have added lots and lots of exercises and phrases that train the scale approach pivot enclosure. And again, please help me find a name for this. With all the exercises comes a bunch of phrases that uses the material in the exercise, that you can get it into your playing and that you can train it at the same time as really start hearing this, leading you to making your own lines. Download the lesson manual PDF on Patreon. The download link is in the description. Of course, you want to dig deeper into where the pivot comes from. The pivot leads directly into this scale approach system. Please check out this video featuring Barry Harris and Charlie Parker. Play music, have fun.